Have you done anything fun today? I turned my head sharply. It had been a long time since a stranger spoke to me, let alone asked something like that. For the past 2 years, my life had followed the same dull pattern. Wake up, make coffee, stare at the wall, take the 10 a.m. number 42 bus to nowhere. Repeat. It wasn't about the destination. I had nowhere to be. It was about pretending I was still going somewhere. The bus smelled like stale upholstery and cheap air freshener. A teenage boy sat in the back, head bobbing to music loud enough for the entire vehicle to hear. A mother juggled her toddler in grocery bags, exhaustion written all over her face. A man in a suit furiously typed on his laptop, his tie slightly askew, as if he'd already had a long day and it was only morning. And then there was her, mid-40s, curly brown hair, warm eyes that crinkled when she smiled, like she found the world amusing in ways I had long forgotten. She was staring right at me. "I'm sorry?" I asked. "I asked if you've done anything fun today." I blinked. The most thrilling part of my morning had been trying to find my glasses, before realizing they were on my face. "No," I said flatly. "I don't really do fun these days." She hummed, tapping a finger against her knee. "That's a shame. Everyone needs a little fun. Even grumpy-looking men on buses." I let out a short, involuntary chuckle. I wasn't sure if she was being rude or refreshingly honest. "I'm married, by the way," she continued, sticking out her hand. I hesitated, then shook it. "Thomas. Nice to meet you, Thomas. So tell me, if you don't do fun, what do you do?" I glanced out the window. "Mostly just this. Riding the bus? Something like that." Mary studied me for a moment, as if she could see right through me. Then she grinned. "Tell you what," she said. "You get off at the next stop with me, and I'll buy you a cup of coffee. My treat." I frowned. "Why?" "Because," she shrugged, "I make an excellent coffee companion. And you look like you could use one." For a moment, I almost said no. I had spent years perfecting the art of solitude. But something in her expression, her confidence, her ease, made me pause. The bus jerked to a stop. Mary stood, looking at me expectantly. "Well," she said. I sighed, shaking my head. "Fine. But if the coffee is terrible, I'm blaming you." She laughed. "Fair deal." And just like that, for the first time in years, I broke my routine. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and fresh bread, the kind of scent that makes you feel like you belong, even if you don't. Mary ordered 2 coffees before I could protest. "Trust me," she said, winking. We found a small table by the window. Outside, the city moved on, people rushing, cars honking, life happening. I had spent so long watching it all from the sidelines that I had almost forgotten what it felt like to be part of it. Mary took a sip of her coffee and leaned in. "So, Thomas, what's your story?" "My story?" I echoed, stirring my coffee out of habit. "Everyone has one. You seem like the kind of guy who's lived a lot of life." I hesitated. No one had asked me that in a long time. "I used to be a teacher. History." Mary's eyes lit up. "No way. My favorite subject. Probably because I had a teacher who made it feel like magic." "Did you love it?" "I did," I admitted. "For a long time." "What happened?" I exhaled. "Life." That was the easiest answer. The truth was messy, eh? Retirement came too soon, my wife passed too early, and suddenly, everything I had built my life around was gone. Mary didn't pry, but she nodded, as if she understood more than I had said. "You know," she said, "I had a moment like that too. Lost my job. Lost my home. Thought I'd lost everything." I frowned. "What changed?" She smiled. "A stranger bought me a cup of coffee." I blinked. "Seriously?" "Yep." It was one of those tiny things that shouldn't have mattered. But it did. That small act of kindness reminded me that people still cared. And if one person could care, maybe I could too. I didn't know what to say. "That's why I do this," Mary continued. "Why I talk to people like you. Because someone once did it for me." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I stared at my coffee, thinking about how such a simple thing, a conversation, a cup of coffee, could have that kind of impact. Then Mary reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. She slid it across the table toward me. "Here. I frowned. What is this? Just open it when you need it, she said. When you really, really need it. I looked down at the envelope, then back at her. You know, this is the part where I find out you're secretly part of some secret society trying to recruit me, right? Mary laughed. Sorry to disappoint. Just an ordinary person who believes in doing something good when she can. I shook my head, slipping the envelope into my coat pocket. Well, Mary, I said, I guess I'll have to find out what kind of trouble you just got me into. She grinned. I hope it's the good kind. And for the first time in years, I felt something stir inside me. Not just existence. Something more. Something alive. The envelope sat on my kitchen table for 4 days. For whole days. I would glance at it every morning, tell myself I'd open it later, then conveniently forget. It wasn't that I didn't want to know what was inside. It was that I was afraid. Afraid that it was some sentimental nonsense I wouldn't know what to do with. Or worse, afraid that it would make me feel something I wasn't ready to face. On the 5th night, after a particularly long and uneventful day, I finally gave in. I made myself a cup of tea, because apparently I had decided to start acting my age, sat down at the table and tore the envelope open. Inside was a single piece of paper. I held my breath, expecting, I don't know, a check, a heartfelt letter, some grand, life-changing secret. But all it said was this: life only changes when you decide to change it. Go do something kind for someone today. I stared at it, blinked. Then, in the most dignified way possible, I muttered, You have got to be kidding me. I read it again, and again. It didn't change. No hidden message. No elaborate instructions. Just that. For a second, I almost laughed. After all that suspense, this was the big mystery? But then something strange happened. I sat back in my chair, the paper still in my hand, and felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Not disappointment. Something else. Because the truth was, I had been waiting for someone else to change my life for me. Mary hadn't given me a solution. She had given me a choice. And I had no idea what to do with it. The next morning, I left my apartment with no plan. Just the note in my pocket and an inexplicable urge to do something. I found myself at the coffee shop. Out of habit, I ordered my usual. Then on impulse, I ordered a second cup. I didn't know who it was for. I just held it, waiting. Then I saw him. A young man, maybe late 20s, sitting alone at a park bench outside the shop. His posture screamed defeat. Shoulders slumped, eyes glued to his phone, his foot tapping anxiously. I hesitated. Would this even matter? Would he think I was crazy? But then I thought about Mary. Before I could talk myself out of it, I walked over and held out the extra coffee. Here, I said. Figured you might need this. The guy looked up, blinking in confusion. Do I know you? Nope. He glanced at the coffee, then back at me. Is this some kind of weird social experiment? I smirked. If it is, I'm failing miserably. He hesitated, then finally took the cup. Thanks, I guess. Rough day? I asked. He let out a short laugh, shaking his head. Rough year. I nodded, sitting beside him. Yeah, I said. I know the feeling. He didn't say anything for a while. We just sat there, two strangers drinking coffee. And somehow that was enough. Finally, he exhaled. You know what's weird? I was just sitting here thinking how much I hate people today. And then you show up with free coffee, like some kind of karma test. I chuckled. Well, how'd I do? He took a sip. Smiled. Not bad, old man. And just like that, the cycle began again. Something changed in me that day. Not in some grand, dramatic way. There was no music swelling in the background. No sudden realization that everything in my life made sense. It was smaller than that, but real. I started making small changes, holding the door open for people, chatting with the guy at the corner store instead of just nodding, actually listening when people spoke. And then one morning, something strange happened. I got on the number 42 bus. Same old smell. Same tired faces. But this time, I didn't sit alone. This time, I sat next to someone. He was younger than me, maybe in his 40s, staring out the window with the kind of exhaustion that wasn't just from lack of sleep. I watched him for a moment. Then, before I could overthink it, I smiled and asked, "Have you done anything fun today?" He turned to me, startled. The same exact way I had looked at Mary weeks ago. For a second, he just stared. And then slowly, hesitantly, he smiled. "Not yet," he said. "But maybe I will." I grinned. That's the spirit. And just like that, I knew the kindness was still moving. Maybe, just maybe, it would never stop.